a game that feels, and a franchise, I should say, that feels like a distant memory is True Crime. Guys, a lot of you may have never been able to play True Crime, but if you ever got the opportunity, this was a really great game. I remember playing it on the PC so many years ago, it feels like at this point, and at this point, guys, we haven't had any confirmation of a continuation of True Crime in the foreseeable future. So I wanted to go ahead and talk about what happened to True Crime as a franchise. So let's talk about it. So guys, this was, just as a refresher, since it's been probably a long time since any of you have played or even talked about True Crime, it was a series, guys, an open world action-adventure video game told from the perspective of law enforcement. There are two games in the series, that being True Crime Streets of LA, which was released in 2003, and True Crime New York City, released in 2005. And just so you guys know, there was very much so a lot of connection that really, it felt like this was a game that was kind of like a spiritual successor, or even more so just kind of very close to the code of what was Grand Theft Auto back in the day. Streets of LA received mixed to positive reviews, with many reviewers favorably comparing it to Grand Theft Auto 3 and Grand Theft Auto Vice City. And so, all in all, guys, Streets of LA was very popular when it first came out, and I remember that. It came out, I played it shortly after it was released. I believe it was on Christmas of that year that I was playing it. And I gotta say, it was a really fantastic game, guys. I really enjoyed it for what it was. It did kind of, it was kind of a reminder of Grand Theft Auto. I wasn't allowed to play Grand Theft Auto at the time, but what I will say is that True Crime definitely kind of quenched my thirst before I was able to start playing Grand Theft Auto. And then once I was able to start playing it, obviously there was a lot of, similarities between those two games. Publisher was Activision, and I kind of wish that they would have kept this title. I mean, it really kept the IP. It's really sad of kind of what happened here, but originally New York City was intended as the first of a two-part series set in New York, but after the game's poor critical and commercial performance, Activision scrapped the direct sequel and put plans for future true crime games on hold. And then in 2007, they hired United Front Games to develop an open-world game set in Hong Kong. By 2009, this game had become True Crime Hong Kong. However, in 2011, the game was canceled. The publishing rights were picked up by Square Enix several months later, and True Crime Hong Kong was ultimately released in 2012 as Sleeping Dogs, which has no connection to the True Crime series. For not renewing rights in 2014, Activision dropped the True Crime trademark completely, which means that there could no longer be any relaunch of Streets of LA in New York City on current consoles. So ultimately, guys, really sad. I mean, just ultimately, it's really unfortunate that this happened. I think it really comes down to, ultimately, guys, that New York City, True Crime New York City, did not do very well whatsoever, whether we're talking commercially, and critically, as well as, of course, the sales, guys. Streets of LA was a commercial success. Its first 2 weeks on release in North America, it sold over 300,000 units across all platforms. By the end of its month, it had sold over 600,000 units. Ultimately, the game went on to sell over 3 million units worldwide across all platforms. And then New York City did not sell well, falling considerably short of Activision's expectations and selling only 72,000 units in its first 2 weeks on release in North America. And I would have to say, guys, in my opinion, the reason why New York City didn't sell as well as Streets of LA, it just wasn't as good. I mean, it was not as good of a game. And surprisingly, though, a lot of times when you have a sequel to a game, especially one that sells well for the first game, usually that second one sells really well. I mean, sometimes even better than the first game. And so it was really surprising that New York City really didn't sell well at all. I mean, you look at the reviews comparison. Streets of LA, guys, on PC got 68 out of 100. On PS2 got 77 out of 100, and Xbox got a 77 out of 100. And then you move over to New York City, that one got 54 out of 100 on PC, PS2 60 out of 100, and Xbox 60 out of 100. So the reviews kind of dipped, in a major way, and so that kind of, messed up, I would say, in a lot of different ways, guys. It really hurt this franchise was New York City. And to be quite fair though, guys, I didn't think New York City was a terrible game. Ultimately, was it as good as Streets of LA? No, but I don't think that it was a terrible game either. I thought it was pretty good, actually. There were things about it I liked more than Streets of LA. There were things I didn't like as much as Streets of LA, but all in all, I thought that it was still a franchise that should have continued, at least given one more chance kind of thing moving forward. And it seems like Activision was planning on doing that, but then they ended up just, completely canceling that project. And the one really weird part of this was that Square Enix took the IP and released it as Sleeping Dogs, and it has nothing to do with the True Crime series, which is very strange to me. Now, I don't know if they weren't allowed to call it True Crime or something. It's a very strange situation though, all in all, and one that is really sad that we'll never really know kind of all of the ins and outs of what happened here. But it's definitely a game I would love to see come back. If you guys are big True Crime fans like I was back then, and I was pretty young when I was playing these games, I would have to say, guys, that it doesn't look likely that we will ever see another True Crime game, at least for, the foreseeable future, unless for some reason, Activision decides to renew the rights or someone else, decides to pick up the IP. But at this point, it's at a pretty much a permanent hiatus or a limbo state at this point. And it's hard to say if we'll ever see another continuation of this franchise. And I think it's one of those franchises, guys, that was it was really a game that in a franchise, I think that could have been a really big game had it continued. It could have been like another Grand Theft Auto or like a Mafia or one of these other, games that could have coexisted in the genre. But ultimately, we'll never know, guys, and it's unfortunate. But I'd love to hear from you guys. What do you guys think about True Crime? What do you think happened there? Let me know in the comment section below. Would you want to see a True Crime, pick it back up and start off again? What would you guys think about that? Let me know in the comment section below. And for more True Crime content and videos, stay here with Zero TV.